Okay, let's talk about needing to access digital borders. Say you're doing some market research maybe, and you need really specific local data from Denmark.
Or perhaps testing out some geo-targeted ads, yeah. Or even just managing accounts that, well, they have to look like they're Danish to work properly.
Right. That situation, the internet just has to believe you're actually there, maybe in Copenhagen or Aarhus, even if you're, miles away.
And the technology that makes that kind of digital jump possible, at least in this context, is really a reliable go-between.
Exactly. A Denmark proxy. And, well, that's what this deep dive is all about. We're going to unpack what these things are, how they operate, and crucially, what makes a good one actually good.
Yeah, what separates the ones that work from the ones that, well, just won't cut it if you're doing anything serious.
Mm-hmm. We've been looking through a guide. It's called Best Denmark Proxy Providers of 2025.
And we've basically pulled out the key stuff, the essential details, so you don't have to wade through all the technical jargon yourself.
Our mission here is pretty simple. Distill this info, help you get your head around the different types of proxies out there, and give you the knowledge so you can figure things out pretty quickly. Okay, let's get into it.
So fundamentally, what is a Denmark proxy? It's basically a server, right? It acts as a middleman for your internet connection.
So instead of your computer talking directly to, say, a website.
Your request first goes to this proxy server, which is physically located in Denmark.
Right. And then the proxy forwards your request to the website you want to visit.
Exactly. So the website sees the request coming from the Danish server, not from your actual location. Your own IP address, your location, it's masked.
And the website sends its response back to the proxy.
Which then sends it back to you. So yeah, to the outside world, you essentially get this legitimate Danish digital footprint.
And this all happens using standard internet tech, like HTTP.
Mostly, yeah. HTTP and HTTPS for web browsing. But the source we looked at also mentions SOCKS5.
Oh, right. That one's a bit more versatile, isn't it?
It is. It can handle different kinds of traffic, not just web pages. Think peer-to-peer, maybe email traffic, and significantly UDP and QUIC protocols.
Which are getting more important for, like, speed and stuff online now.
Yeah, definitely. So, okay, that's the what. But moving past that basic idea, if you actually need a proxy for something important, data gathering, account management, whatever,
then just picking any proxy isn't going to work. Choosing the right one based on its technical specs is, well, it's vital.
The source really hammered this point home, especially the IP pool.
Right, not just having a Danish IP, but how many and what kind.
Exactly. Think of the IP pool as your stack of available Danish identities. Some providers, the guide mentioned, have huge numbers. We're talking hundreds of thousands just in Denmark, or part of global pools with millions, some over 150 million IPs.
Wow. And why does having so many matter?
Well, a bigger, more varied pool lets you switch between lots of different IP addresses. Rotation, basically.
Ah, so it makes you harder to spot.
Precisely. Sophisticated websites look for patterns, things that signal proxy user. Lots of diverse IPs make that much harder. It gives you better coverage across Denmark and seriously cuts down the risk of getting detected and blocked. Super important for anything continuous.
Makes total sense. Quantity for stealth, basically.
Yeah.
Okay, what else? Performance was another big focus in the guide. Response time, uptime.
Yeah, these are absolutely critical for just getting things done efficiently and reliably. The source suggests aiming for response times, ideally under half a second.
That's fast.
It needs to be for many tasks. Then uptime guarantees that tells you how often the service is actually online. You really want 99.9% or even higher. Anything less means potential dropout.
Which would be incredibly frustrating.
Definitely. And success rates, that's the percentage of your connection attempts that actually go through successfully. Top providers aim for 99.5% or better. These numbers aren't just stats. They directly impact how fast and how dependably you can do whatever you need to do online.
The guide also mentioned city-level targeting within Denmark for like really specific stuff.
Right. Yeah, that's a neat feature. It allows for much more granular work. So instead of just appearing somewhere in Denmark, you can specify, say, Copenhagen or Aarhus.
For hyper-local content or research. Got it.
Gives you much higher accuracy for certain tasks.
Security and support were also in there. Seems obvious, but still important.
Oh, absolutely essential. You need secure ways to log in, HTTPS support to encrypt your traffic, and good, reliable 24/7 tech support is non-negotiable.
Because if things suddenly stop working.
Exactly. If your target site suddenly starts blocking the IPs you're using, you need expert help, like right now, not tomorrow.
Okay, and pricing, the source mentioned, that varies a lot too.
It really does. You've got models based on how much data you use, like pay per gigabyte. Others charge per IP address you rent. Some are just flat monthly subscriptions.
You really need to figure out your usage first.
Yeah, understanding how much you'll use and how is key to picking the model that gives you the best bang for your buck.
And for the bigger operations, API integration came up.
That's a must-have if you're doing things at scale or need to plug the proxies into your own software or scripts. It lets you manage and rotate IPs automatically, seamlessly.
So, tying all these technical bits together, how does this stuff like IP pool size or response time actually impact someone just trying to view Danish content or do some research?
Well, it basically determines if your project is even practical or how efficient it'll be.
Right. Like if you're scraping loads of data, slow speeds or connections that keep failing mean everything takes way longer, costs more.
Exactly. And if you're trying to access a site that's really good at blocking proxies, having a small, easily detectable IP pool or IPs that aren't clean means you'll just keep hitting walls. You'll get blocked constantly.
And high uptime means you don't miss out when you need access.
Precisely. It really boils down to reliability and effectiveness for your specific goal. The tech specs aren't just numbers on a page. They directly predict how successful you'll actually be.
Okay, that makes sense. And speaking of specific goals, the source broke down the different types of proxies, which apparently are suited for different jobs. Residential, data center, mobile.
Yep, those are the main categories. Each has like a different origin story and performs differently. Understanding the pros and cons is really key.
So residential proxies first. These are tied to actual home internet connections, right?
That's the idea. They use IP addresses that internet service providers assign to real households in Denmark. Their biggest advantage is that authenticity.
And the benefit of looking like a regular home user is?
Very low risk of being detected. That's what the source emphasizes. Because these IPs look legitimate, belonging to real people on home networks, it's really hard for those fancy anti-proxy systems to spot them and block them.
So they're good at getting past blocks.
Superior unblocking capabilities, yeah. And high success rates, the guide mentioned, over 99% often. They just look like real users.
Sounds like the gold standard for authenticity. What's the catch?
Well, they tend to be slower than other types. You're limited by the speed of that home internet connection, essentially.
Okay.
And because getting and maintaining these ethically sourced residential IPs is complex and costly, they usually come with a higher price tag.
Right. Okay, next up, data center proxies. These sound more industrial.
They are. They're created in bulk, usually from cloud servers or big commercial data centers. They aren't linked to residential ISPs at all.
And their main advantage is speed, I'm guessing?
Spot on. They usually offer much higher bandwidth, think 1 Gbps or even more, so they're way faster. Much better if you need to handle large volumes of traffic quickly, and maybe detectability isn't your absolute top concern.
And they're cheaper too.
Generally, yes. Often significantly cheaper. The source mentioned prices like a few cents per IP sometimes. Plus, they're usually very stable, and you can often get plans with unlimited bandwidth. The workhorses, really.
Sounds good for bulk stuff. But the trade-off is they're easier to spot.
That's typically the case. Because they come from known commercial server farms, it's easier for sophisticated websites or anti-bot systems to identify them and potentially block them. They also tend to offer fewer specific geographic locations compared to residential pools.
Okay, and the last type, mobile proxies. Using actual phone connections in Denmark.
Correct. Your traffic gets routed through real mobile devices using 3G, 4G, or now 5G connections on Danish mobile networks.
That sounds very authentic, especially for mobile stuff.
It offers a unique level of authenticity, yes. You get real mobile device fingerprints, support for mobile protocols. It's ideal if you're testing mobile apps, accessing mobile-only sites, or need carrier-specific targeting. For simulating genuine mobile user behavior, or when you need the absolute highest anonymity for certain tasks, they're kind of unmatched.
And the downside for mobile, besides probably cost.
Cost is definitely one. They're the most premium option. And the IP pools are usually the smallest compared to residential or data center. It reflects how specialized they are and the infrastructure needed.
What's really interesting here is seeing how each type is almost custom built for a different kind of online task.
Yeah, it really highlights that it's not just about getting a proxy. It's about matching the tool to the job.
Right. You need to pick the right type of proxy for whatever digital door you're trying to unlock or whatever task you're doing. Data center if speed is king and detection is less of a worry.
Residential if you're hitting tough targets that need that authentic look.
And mobile for anything specifically needing that mobile carrier footprint.
Exactly. Your success really depends heavily on aligning the proxy type with what the website or application you're targeting expects or defends against.
So the guide we looked at reviewed a bunch of providers. We probably don't need to list them all, but maybe touch on a few examples to show the range.
Sure. It definitely shows how diverse the market is. Like when we talked about those huge IP pools, providers like Bright Data, Oxy Labs, Decodo were mentioned with just massive numbers. Bright Data claims something like 150 million IPs globally ethically sourced. Oxy Labs, over 177 million. It really shows the scale available.
And performance leaders were highlighted too.
Yep. Decodo got a mention for being super fast, apparently under 0.3 seconds response time sometimes. And Bright Data was noted for its support, like award-winning 24/7 help with quick responses. Shows that service quality is a big deal too. WebShare also popped up for really high uptime, especially on their data center side, like 99.97%. Reliable stuff.
And there were some cool-sounding unique features mentioned, like AI or special filtering.
Right. Oxy Labs apparently uses AI tools to help with scraping and getting past blocks, suggesting things are getting more automated. And AFFMaven was highlighted for something interesting, like an IP quality filter aiming for 95% clean IPs and these super sticky sessions that can last up to 24 hours.
Well, 24 hours on the same IP. That's sticky. Useful for maintaining logins, I guess.
Exactly. It's a big deal for keeping a consistent identity over time, shows some real technical innovation happening.
And the pricing across these examples definitely reflected the different proxy types and scales we discussed.
Oh, absolutely. You clearly see the higher cost for residential IPs, often billed per gigabyte, use the source mention ranges like $3.50 up to $4 per GB for pay-as-you-go, versus the data center ones being much cheaper.
Much cheaper. Sometimes priced per IP, like 0.026 or other $1.09 per IP in some examples, or way less per GB. And mobile, yeah, sitting at the top end, maybe starting around $50 a month for just a basic plan.
So you really have to like crunch the numbers based on what you expect to use.
You absolutely do. No way around that.
So bringing this all together, what does this landscape of different providers, types, features, and costs mean for you, the listener?
Well, I think the main takeaway is there's really no single best proxy provider or type that fits everyone. It's not one size fits all.
Right. Depends entirely on your situation. Exactly. Your budget, what kind of websites you need to access, how fast you need things to be, how important looking real is, and just the overall scale of what you're doing. All those factors will point you towards the right combination.
So having this kind of breakdown helps you look past just, I need a Denmark IP, unless you actually compare providers on the things that matter.
Yeah, like the size and quality of their IP pool, their actual performance stats, any special features they have for avoiding blocks, picking the right type, residential, data center, mobile, and figuring out the true cost for how you plan to use it.
It empowers you to make a much smarter choice, one that hopefully maximizes your chances of actually achieving whatever you set out to do digitally in Denmark.
That's the goal, yeah.
Yeah.
An informed decision.
Okay, so as we wrap up this deep dive, maybe one last thought to leave you with. If this technology, Proxies, allows people and companies to effectively pretend to be somewhere they're not online, gaining access to things they otherwise couldn't, bypassing geographical limits, what does the growing sophistication of this technology really mean for the whole idea of online borders?
That's an interesting question. Does it make those borders stronger because you need these complex tools to get around them?
Or does it kind of subtly wear them down over time,
Yeah.
creating a more fluid, maybe more complex global digital space?
It's a compelling point. The technology itself and how it's evolving definitely makes you think about what location and access really mean online today.
Indeed. Well, that wraps up our deep dive into Denmark proxy providers. We hope this gave you some useful insights for navigating this sometimes complex world of online access. Thanks for joining us.